Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chairman Coons, and also good afternoon, Ranking Member Isaacson. It is an honor and a pleasure to appear before this committee this afternoon to testify before you about United States policy towards the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The DRC is the largest country in sub-Saharan Africa. With a population of over 71 million people, it is bordered by 9 other countries and is connected regionally and geographically with East Africa, Southern Africa, and Central Africa. It is also a country with enormous natural resources, valuable minerals, and abundant water sources. But despite its great potential, the Democratic Republic of the Congo is one of the poorest countries in Africa. The DRC's turbulent pre- and post-independence history has never allowed it to live up to its economic promise, nor has it been able to achieve the peace and stability its people desperately need and seek. The Congo's problems are centered around a lack of functioning state authority throughout much of the country. The state is unable to provide basic services such as health care, education, and infrastructure. The bureaucracy is weak and sometimes dysfunctional and lacking in power. The security forces are frequently undisciplined and certainly ill-equipped and poorly trained and irregularly paid. Corruption is widespread, and the problems go on from there. The United States, nevertheless, is the DRC's largest donor, having committed over $900 million this past year bilaterally and through multilateral organizations for peacekeeping, humanitarian, and development assistance projects. We have supported the DRC's efforts to emerge from conflict and realize a just and lasting peace that is based on democratic principles, the rule of law, and respect for human rights. The top priorities for the United States and the DRC are promoting credible elections, strengthening capacity to govern and protect, improving economic governance, and reducing violence and conflict in the eastern DRC. My statement will focus this afternoon on our immediate concern in the DRC, the stability of the country after the current elections. On November 28th, the DRC held its second democratic election since the end of the Mobutu era. 11 candidates vied for the presidency, and almost 19,000 candidates competed for 500 seats in parliament. The Independent Electoral Commission, known frequently as CENI, announced the provisional results on December 9, declaring the incumbent, President Joseph Kabila, the winner with approximately 49% of the vote. Second place went to the leading opposition candidate, Etienne Tshisekedi, with 32% of the vote. And a distant third, the CENI's provisional results accorded Vital Kamerhe with 7.5% of the vote. Both national and international observer missions, including the U.S.-funded Carter Center observer mission, identified flaws with the vote tabulation process, as well as other problems that occurred ahead of the actual vote. On December the 10th, the Carter Center released a public statement on its assessment that the CENI's provisional results, and I quote, lack credibility, unquote, noting, quote, the vote tabulation process has varied across the country, ranging from the proper application of procedure to serious irregularities, end quote. The statement goes on to say, however, that, quote, this assessment does not propose the final order of candidates necessarily different than announced by the CENI, only that the results process is not credible, end quote. We share these deep concerns expressed in the Carter Center's assessment over the execution of the election and the vote tallying process. It is clear that the elections were deficient. The CENI did not meet internationally accepted standards in the vote counting process. We have been watching the electoral process for months. I have met with and spoken with all of the major candidates on numerous occasions. Last week, I spoke with Mr. Tshisekedi and also with the Senate chair, Pastor Malunda. The State Department has found the management and technical aspect of these elections to be seriously flawed, the vote tabulation to be lacking in transparency, and not on a par with positive gains in the democratic process that we have seen in other recent African elections. However, it is important to note that we do not know, and it might not be possible to determine with any certainty, whether the final order of candidates would have been different from the provisional results had the management of the process been better. Further assessments by election experts could determine whether the numerous shortcomings identified were due to incompetence, mismanagement, willful manipulation, or a combination of all three. President Kabila has publicly acknowledged that there were, quote, mistakes, unquote, in the process, but has reportedly rejected any assessment that the results were not creditable. An opposition candidate has formally filed a petition with the DRC's Supreme Court, which is presently reviewing the results and has until December 19th to issue its ruling. We continue to advocate that all Congolese political leaders and their supporters act responsibly, renounce violence, and resolve any disagreements through peaceful, constructive dialogue and existing legal remedies. We believe that a rapid technical review of the electoral process by the Congolese authorities may determine ways to provide more creditable results, shed light on whether irregularities caused by lack of organization or fraud, or whether they will provide guidance for future elections. The United States stands ready to provide technical assistance for such a review. It is important that the relevant Congolese authorities complete the remaining steps in the electoral process with maximum openness and transparency. We are urging them to put forward greater efforts for improved tabulation throughout the rest of the Congolese election cycle. This is especially important as the tabulation process is ongoing for 500 National Assembly seats where, unlike the presidential election, a small number of votes could determine the winner. We are also engaging with other governments at the highest levels, particularly in the region, asking them to reach out to President Kabila and Etienne Tshisekedi and other relevant actors to embrace a peaceful solution to this potential impasse. We have called on all Congolese political leaders to renounce violence and resolve any disagreements through peaceful dialogue and existing legal mechanisms. Although there are major challenges with these elections, I want to note a few accomplishments. Unlike in 2006, the government of the DRC was principally responsible for the organization and conduct for much for much of the financing of these elections. This was an important first step. The Senate was able to register over 32 million Congolese voters, and over 18 million voters endured admittedly difficult conditions to cast their votes. The voter turnout and enthusiasm for these elections broadly reflected the determination of the Congolese people to have their voices heard through the democratic process. The United States played an active role in assisting in the electoral process. We committed approximately $15 million from multi-year bilateral funding in election assistance through USAID. The funding supported the Carter Center's $4 million projects, $4 million worth of projects, and we also supported the International Foundation for Electoral Systems, known as IFES, with an additional $11 million. This funding was used for civic and voter education, for national election observer training, and capacity building of human rights organizations. In addition, we deployed mission observer teams in each of the 10 provinces and Kinshasa, enabling wide coverage and observation of the elections. On the public diplomacy side, VOA and Embassy Kinshasa conducted a program to strengthen democratic and social institutions. Our involvement and observation of the elections was indeed extensive. Moving beyond the recent elections, I would like just to take a few minutes to state that the United States strongly supports the United Nations Stabilization Mission in the Democratic Republic of the Congo and its efforts to help the Congolese government bring peace and stability to the DRC. Although MONUSCO cannot be in the Congo forever, any decision on the mission's drawdown or eventual withdrawal must be condition-based to avoid triggering a relapse into broader insecurity. We recognize that sustainable peace and stability in Eastern Congo will require professional and accountable Congolese security forces and a strong and independent judicial system, and we are working with other nations to promote these. The United States also wants to help the government of the Democratic Republic of the Congo to counter the threat of rebel armed groups and to help the DRC establish sustainable security, something that has eluded the country for decades. We continue to work closely with the people and government of the DRC on countering the LRA and enhancing the protection of its civilian population. We are also concerned about the illicit trade in the DRC's natural resources. Unregulated exploitation and illicit trade in minerals have exacerbated the climate of insecurity in the eastern DRC as armed groups have used profits from such trade to fund their illegal activities. We currently have approximately $11 million in funds specifically aimed at increasing the transparency and regulation of the illegal trade in key minerals in the eastern DRC. The United States also has other major objectives in the Congo. We want to help to strengthen good governance, promote economic development, improve human rights, support judicial reform, and end the cycle of impunity. We recognize that there are great challenges across the DRC. However, the DRC and the United States have a solid and positive relationship, and our governments continue to engage at the highest level on a number of issues. Thank you very much.